And I think what people want to know is, was everything done in advance that could have been done? It sounds like the Weather Service was staffed, the alerts went out. You know, it does sound like here, despite what we've heard some people argue, ghoulishly I might add, that the federal government and the Weather Service and the local meteorologists did do their jobs here. And so I guess part of the questions that you start answering at this point is, what can you do better in the future?
But this could have been either mitigated or avoided altogether. In 2017, my understanding is that Kern County, where this happened, contemplated installing a flood warning system. That would have been sirens, not emails that the kids wouldn't get, because kids in camp, they don't have their phones with them. They take them away. Money instead was funneled to border security. Border security.
Ladies and gentlemen, the cackling hens are at it again. They are politicizing this tragic event that occurred in Kern County, Texas, blaming MAGA and the Republicans for it. But I got news for you guys, and we got some facts, so worry not. We're cooking with Crisco here. Of course, Sonny Hostin, the ringleader here, is trying to state some facts, but we got the real facts. We're going to fact check her here and make her look stupid like we always do. Without further ado, let's get into this.
Have been coming up for years.
Yeah.
People in power have had the opportunity to make changes to the grid, to all of these things that we are seeing. And I'm just wondering, when is the right time to ask this question then?
I think now is the right time to ask the question. And I understand that people are grieving. I myself...
Of course, Sonny wants to ask the question now, even though they haven't even literally buried the children and had funerals yet. But, you know, she doesn't care about them. Regardless of what she says, if you guys have been watching this for a while, you already know that Sonny Hostin could care less. This was a MAGA county. It's a MAGA state. She doesn't care that these kids died.
The Kern County, where this happened, contemplated installing a flood warning system. That would have been sirens, not emails that the kids wouldn't get, because kids in camp, they don't have their phones with them. They take them away. So these sirens could have saved lives. It was rejected as too expensive, and money instead was funneled to border security. Border security.
Quickly countering Sonny's comments here about the way the funding was spent. First off, she mentioned something way back in 2017. It's 2025 now. Why are you talking about what was denied back in 2017? I mean, they could have revisited it between now and then, but whether or not that happened, we probably don't know the details on that, and I guarantee you Sonny Hostin doesn't know. But what we do know is that they spent a ton of money on illegal aliens. Exhibit A is on the screen here. Texas spent $31 million to $63 million annually to educate unaccompanied illegal migrants in the year 2017 alone. Okay, a total of 63 million potentially. This is just a range, right? 63 million. Estimates are that this alerting system would have cost 1 million. So because a bunch of illegal migrants are flooding into Texas back in 2017, illegal migrants prevented the funding of the survivability of American citizens, further endangering public safety. Sonny Hostin didn't tell you that. Public hospitals spent $579 to $717 million per year. 2017. Sonny Hostin didn't tell you that. Texas spent $62 to $90 million a year on emergency Medicaid, the thing that they claim illegal migrants can't get. In 2017, they got it in Texas. $152 million to house illegal aliens. Okay, like this, guys, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop all around the same time that Sonny Hostin is claiming, well, they spend money on border security. They spent way more money funding the people who came into the country illegally than they did on border security. Way more. This is just Texas funding. Imagine how much it costs nationally. It don't cost millions, it costs billions nationally. But Sonny doesn't want to talk about that, how many billions of dollars that it costs to fund these illegal alien criminals that are funneling across the border. Instead, she wants to focus on how the Republicans spent a little bit of money on border security that clearly was ineffective. It wasn't enough. How about instead of paying for a bunch of illegal migrants to get free health care, we save American children with flood warning systems? How about that, Sonny? In addition to that, there's a whole timeline demonstrating that there was alerting that took place.
But at some point, somebody's life, somebody's child could have been saved.
Well, I think something that gets lost in this is the DOGE cuts have actually not taken effect. They don't take effect until October 1st. And if you talk to the National Weather Service, they say we had 5 staffers instead of the normal 2 that were on hand. We were giving alerts on Thursday warning about this. You talked to the union head of the National Weather Service staffers and said, yeah, we did every single thing we could possibly do.
I want to remind everyone, this is an area of our country, in Hill Country up to Texas, that is known as Flash Flood Alley. They also, going into this, had severe to exceptional drought. Now, obviously, we've had a ton of water, so that's going to play a part in the flood watch that is still up until 7 p.m. It includes the same areas that were hit, but also San Antonio and Austin. Overall, this is for 2 to 4 inches. Locally, up to 10 inches, guys. So this is a big deal the next 24 to 36 hours.
A very big deal. And Ginger, how did this even happen? So much rain falling in such a short time.
Right. Well, part of the problem is what we call an MCV, mesoscale convective vortex. It's a really slow-moving system, and it's stuck. There's not a lot of steering winds to get it out of there. And then there are 3 sources of moisture from the Pacific, from the Gulf, and actually from remnants of Barry. That was a storm that hit Mexico more than a week ago. So put all that together, it's like having a kiddie pool and turning 3 faucets on all at once.
And Matt Gutman, in his report, he was telling us there are questions on the ground right now about these warnings and when they went out. What do we know?
Yeah, we know from the AP, they said the National Weather Service offices there were more than staffed. They were staffed extra, actually, which is normal. The National Weather Service confirming to us that that's called surge staffing ahead of a big event like this. The warnings went out, starting with the flood watch at 1:18 p.m. the day before. So that's the day before into the evening of. The WPC puts out this saying 3-inch per hour rainfall rates. They're saying this is going to be bad. Again, 6 p.m. the night before. By midnight, that heavy rain begins. And then at 1:14 a.m., the first flash flood warning goes out. That's the type that goes out on the NOAA weather radio. That's the type that would fly onto your phone. And it had a considerable tag, meaning this is bigger than your run-of-the-mill flood warning. Then the river starts rising, and by 3:35 a.m., that wording is upped. It says, move to higher ground now, act quickly to protect your life. I have to say, just a button here, that having a NOAA weather radio would be very important for everybody, because I think a lot of people are scared, thinking, what's going to happen if I go out camping? Giving yourself just a couple extra minutes. Nothing was perfect here, but guys, there's certainly something that can help, and having that available to you is big.
Now, of course, in terms of whether or not it was a proper alerting, like the sirens that were mentioned by Hostin here, it looks like that wasn't available. Now, should they have had that? Yeah, I think that they should have had that, considering the level of danger that exists. But again, they're too busy paying for illegal migrants to have free services and educations and attorneys. I mean, literally everything. Clothes, food, education, it doesn't matter. They get it all, and they get it for free. And she doesn't want to talk about that. She just wants to say, well, if we weren't trying to secure the border, then American children would be safer. Imagine how stupid this sounds. Instead of getting flooded, the children might have got kidnapped. You never know, depending on how many people make it in. But to imply that you got a whole system in place, to imply that a siren could have brought you from, they said this river, they said it was going through like a drought at the time. It went from like 1 feet to like 34 feet in like 2 hours. Even if the people that I blame the most, honestly, is the local people on site. They're probably like, this place has been standing up 100 years. We're going to be fine. It's like, can you really blame them? I mean, a reasonable person would think that the place is going to be fine, honestly. But it was built on a flood zone, so maybe that was a stupid decision to begin with. But again, it's been there for 100 years. But if I had to blame someone, if some head has to roll, then unfortunately those people already dead. They died too, guys. I mean, a lot of the staff and counselors and stuff, they perished, unfortunately. So rest in peace. God bless them. But the ones who were responsible is primarily them. They should have been verifying that it was safe for the children out there. But even if you argue that's the case, who the hell is going to think, oh, it's going to go from 1 to 34 feet in 2 hours? You think if you heard sirens, like they play sirens even where I'm at, and I'm definitely not in no flood zone. They play sirens even where I'm at, like for tornadoes and tornado warnings. They got all these fake warnings and all this stuff that goes on. a lot of time I hear it and I'm like, I mean, it'll probably be fine. Like, you know, nobody really takes a lot of these things seriously. So by the time something actually does happen, especially in such a short period of time, you know, they're claiming it's like 2 hours. This means that if it went to 34 feet, then that means that it was a certain time when it was 10 feet. It's already probably too late then. At a certain time is 20 feet. You already like can't really swim in that. So it's crazy already. So if it went to 34 feet, I mean, what chance did these people have, really? Like, under most circumstances, I mean, you might have got lucky with the sirens. I do think they should have them just in case, and stop paying for all these illegal migrant services, reduce all that dang funding. Well, the way to do it is to have more border security. Then you reduce the amount of people coming in. Then you reduce the funding because then you don't have to pay for anybody. And that's what Greg Abbott was doing, and all these different other leaders were doing. So they were doing the right thing. Sonny Hostin here instead wants to make this politicized and try to pretend as though, well, if they weren't trying to secure the border, then these girls would have been alive, which is just stupid. You know, I'm trying not to use too much derogatory language. It is very insulting to the dead that she would try to dunk on Republicans in this situation, but that's what happens when you're a left-wing hack and you don't know the facts. I'd imagine that they just looked and it was like, man, it's raining pretty hard out there. The next second, the freaking cabin's floating away, right? I mean, it seems like it's almost an unavoidable tragedy. In my opinion, the best bet is probably not to build Camp Mystic, rebuild it back on, you know, a flood zone area. Maybe build it on higher ground so that this is a lot more easily avoidable in the future. But these are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
But I do think it's highly irresponsible and it's been more than a handful of people to look back on this and try to blame President Trump or blame the National Weather Service when obviously that's not the case.